Let's see here.
Hello out there in Facebook land. I believe we are live. We are using a new technology today. So hello everybody and welcome. This is a happy day. I get to do my Thursday training, which I really enjoy doing. And I'm really excited today because I've been promising you guys over the last couple of weeks that I would be bringing on some expert marketing gurus. And so today is that day. So I'm going to be talking to you today about how to get the right prospects into your coaching funnel. And obviously, to do that means that you have to have a funnel created by somebody who knows how to do that and attract the right people. So I'm Janet Clark, for those of you who are new, and my expertise is in high ticket selling. So I've been doing these series of live streams talking about different things that coaches need to think about in order to really do well with the high ticket, their high ticket program sales, and what it really takes to get to that point to be able to outsource those sales. Because in order to really scale, you have to be able to bring a salesperson on so that as a coach or consultant, you can spend your time focused on what you do best, which is coaching. So with that in mind, I want to introduce you to Chris Lobb. Chris is one of my partners, and he is an expert in digital marketing. So Chris has spent over 10 years working with Fortune 500 companies, working with companies that have actually been featured on Shark Tank. And really, he's a brilliant copywriter. And he's done work for some of the high ticket gurus that are out there, the top online marketers. So hi, Chris.
Hello, how are you? Excited to be here.
Yeah, I know. I'm happy to have you here too. So one of the things that Chris and I have really come to agree upon, because we've done a lot of work in this area, is that there's really three different areas that you have to focus on in order to really be successful in selling these high ticket programs. And the first is obviously the copywriting or the messaging. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. But the second is the whole traffic generation piece, which Chris is also, his agency is expert at. And then the third is the actual sales piece of it, which is where my expertise comes in. So, you know, the importance of messaging is totally crucial, right? So we're going to really dive into that with Chris today. And just so that you know, like, who we really are speaking to today are those of you who are coaches or consultants who are scaling your businesses, right? So you've gotten to the point where you're spending a lot of time on the phone, talking with prospects. And in a lot of cases, you're maybe not talking to the right prospects. You're talking with people who are tire kickers or just want to pick your brain or want to get some free coaching, which is a total drain, right, on you as a coach or a consultant. So what we really want to do is we want to figure out how to get your funnel producing qualified leads. And if you are a salesperson who sells high ticket programs, this will also be great training for you. We're going to talk about, you know, how important your role is in being able to support these coaches and consultants as they are transitioning their sales over to people like you. So our goal today really is to address how to scale your high ticket coaching sales and to shine some light on the obstacles that may be getting in your way. And Chris can really do that. So without much further ado, I'd like to just let Chris say a few words here, right? So talk to me a little bit about, Chris, you know, why is it so important to, you know, build the funnel in such a way that you are going to get the right prospects into it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like you said, there's the three pieces where it's having the messaging, the traffic, which is getting the people into it, and then turning them into paying clients, which is the conversion sales aspect of things. And a lot of people look at those as separate individual pieces. They look at the copywriting as one thing, and the traffic and Facebook ads campaign as something separate, and the selling is something separate. Or they're trying to do each of those individual elements themselves, even though that's really not in their area of expertise. So Todd Brown, one of the most well-respected kind of funnel experts out there, I came across a quote in one of his training materials a while ago that said the number one reason for funnel failure is a mismatch between the messaging and the consumer, and a mismatch in the sophistication of the communication. So going a little bit deeper, basically what he's saying is the number one reason that most funnels fail is because the communication, the messaging in that funnel doesn't match where the business's prospect is at that point in their life. So it's really critical. I mean, that's supposed to be the number one reason that funnels fail. So obviously, if that's the biggest kind of obstacle that business owners dealing with, then getting that right, figuring out that messaging and that communication is going to help you get you over, the number one biggest roadblock to getting your funnel successful. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about today, is really the importance of messaging, why it's important, what you can do to figure out your messaging, figure out what you need to be saying to your prospects to get them into your funnel and moving deeper into your funnel, and then how to align those properly so that from the very first exposure to your business, which may or may not be a paid ad, there are also people doing organic funnels and promoting their coaching business organically. But either way, so that the first time, from their first contact with your business until they get on the phone with you and become a paying client, that messaging is staying consistent and you're saying the right things. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Any comments on that stuff, Janet, before we dive in?
Well, yeah. So the thing that I came to realize, and one of the reasons that you and I, Chris, started really working together, is that, so many coaches, because I do this matching between the salespeople and the coaches, and so many coaches were coming to me and saying, okay, I'm ready, right? I've got my business to, maybe they're doing $20,000, $30,000 a month, but they're on the phones constantly. And they're looking for a way to bring in that salesperson. And of course, the first thing that I'm going to say to them is like, okay, well, how many leads can you put on the salesperson's calendar, right? And invariably, what I find is that most of these coaches don't have a working funnel. So a lot of the time that they're spending to get these sales, and maybe they're doing 3 sales a month or 4, but they're spending, 10 or 15 hours a week on the phone just to get to that level of sales, because they're talking to anybody and everybody, and it's burning them out. But then bringing in a salesperson really does require that they're qualified leads, because the salesperson's going to burn out just as fast in the same way. Mm-hmm. So, we've been talking about that, exactly what you just said, how important it is to have a funnel that actually brings the right people to the strategy session.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Because when a coach, or almost the sales team of any business for that matter, has a low closing rate on the phone, that means they're talking to a lot of the wrong people. And given that's the marketing department's responsibility to generate those leads and get those appointments on the calendar, that's a marketing problem. So a lot of coaches, solopreneurs, experts, whatever, think that they have a sales problem because they're getting on the phone with their prospects and they're only enrolling 10, 15, 20% of the people that they talk to, when really they're fine at sales. Doesn't necessarily mean they should be doing their own calls, but really what they have is a marketing problem because they're bringing the wrong prospects into their business. So yeah, that's where a lot of people get confused. That's where a lot of people make mistakes. And that's basically what the entire purpose of today's training about, is to help you figure out which category do you fall into. Are you actually just not very good at sales, in which case you should outsource to a closer? Or do you have a marketing problem where you're bringing in the wrong prospects and you have a low closing ratio, and because of that, you think you have a sales problem? So hopefully we can help you guys differentiate between the two and get some clarity on this so that you can take the next step forward, whether that's dialing in your messaging better or getting help on the sales side or whatever. So let me just pull up our little outline here. But yeah, basically when it comes to this messaging stuff, so I heard a really good marketing quote a year or two ago that has stuck with me to this day, and I think about this often. And it said that marketing comes down to what you say and to whom you say it. Um, and just like hit me like a ton of bricks when I heard this, because it really is so true. Dan Kennedy was famous for saying that in marketing, the most important thing is your offer. And the second most important thing after that is your list, which is basically your audience, your avatar. And then way, way, way after that becomes your copywriting and whatnot. So the offer is, what are you selling and how are you communicating the value of it? What's the proposition? And the audience, the market, as we just explained, is the people that you're selling to, the avatar. So when you can match those two up, that's where magic happens. And the analogy I like to give is like, if you're saying the right thing to the wrong person, they're not going to pay attention because what you're saying isn't relevant to them. And if you're saying the wrong thing to the right person, you might get their attention in the beginning, but eventually you're going to repel them and push them away because once again, what you're saying isn't relevant to their specific situation. But when you can figure out both sides, when you can figure out how you can say the right thing to the right person, that's where magic happens. And that's why when you see people talk about, the offer is the most important thing and you have to get your messaging dialed in, that's why. And this is why so many business owners, not just coaches and consultants and experts, but businesses worldwide, that's why they struggle with their marketing, because they're saying the wrong thing to the right person or the right thing to the wrong person or the wrong thing to the wrong person. So to really get a marketing campaign to take off, you have to be saying the right thing to the right person. So with that said, the base level where coaches and consultants and experts need to start at is clearly defining their avatar. Who is your avatar? And a lot of people say, okay, well, I'm a coach to the fitness niche or men's fitness, and they pick a niche and they think that their niche is their avatar, and it's so much more complicated than that. I've done some work in the paleo space and was working with a company that was doing 7 figures, but they were writing very thin profit margins. Like if the conversion rate on their landing page went down by 10%, they went from being profitable to in the red, negative. So they were writing a very fine line growing their business. And I did some market research for them, Ryan Levesque style. I know Janet's done some work, a lot of work with Ryan Levesque actually. And I did a deep dive survey and some market research for them and basically determined that they had a mismatch between who they thought their audience was and who their audience actually was. So this happens a lot. And I think some of you watching this will probably be able to resonate. Long story short, the owners of the company were making assumptions about who they thought their market was, and they projected themselves outwardly. So the founders of this company were 32 to 35, very fit, like to eat healthy, like to work out. And they were talking about paleo, information products and coaching about how to eat better and nutrition and paleo, et cetera. So their marketing had like guys at the beach with their shirt off and the guy's wife doing exercise and a lot of red and black, which is common in men's fitness funnels. But when I went in there and did my market research, I found out that this company's avatar, their buyers, were heavily skewed towards being women 45 to 55, and then 55 to 70. So they were basically marketing themselves towards the younger adult crowd, yet at the end of the day, their buyers were heavily skewed towards older women. And on top of that, they weren't looking to get a bikini body. They weren't looking to get build on muscle. They were actually way more concerned with maintaining their nutrition, preventing chronic disease, boosting their energy, etc. And when this company went through and adapted what they had learned when they fixed their copy, they changed their the imagery. Instead of using a lot of red and black, they started using light blue and light gray, using photos of women in their golden years and middle-aged women, et cetera, et cetera. Their conversion and the performance of their funnel went up dramatically, and they actually went on to, from like writing that fine line of being profitable or going negative, to becoming an 8-figure company and landing on the Inc. 500. So, and to this day, they're still using that messaging and that imagery throughout their funnel. So, that's a dramatic example, but it just goes to show that there are some businesses out there that are profitable in spite of themselves. And if they took the time to really figure out their messaging and figure out who their avatar is, they could become even more profitable and be able to knock out sales without having to put in so much effort. So I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that, Janet, or if that, if you've had any experience with that kind of stuff. But
well, I mean, seriously, in all of the coaching programs that I've been in, the people that I've coached myself in the high level masterminds that I've been part of, I would say that 99% of coaches literally struggle with this, right? Because when they start off, they're just too broad and they're trying to serve too many people, and they're feeling like they're in some kind of competition with other people who do something similar. But when you really dig into it deeper with people, I think that when the coaches can niche down and really understand who they are attracting with their messaging and who are the people that they can serve the best, their businesses explode. And I've just seen that happen over and over again. And it's kind of counterintuitive. It seems like, so many people say, I could help everybody. And I think when we get to a certain point in our lives, particularly we have a lot of experience, it's probably true that we can help a lot of different people. But to really scale a business, it actually works better to niche it down and figure out that sweet spot, that person that you really can help.
Yeah, 100%.
Chris, looks like you froze up on us again. All right, well, he will have to, this happened before we were in a little practice session, so I think he's going to have to come off and go back on again. But in the meantime, I think that for those of you who are out there that you understand that because you've probably been there yourself and how important this is. And, there is this whole thing about how, there's sort of these 3 phases. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Sorry.
So I don't know if I lost you, but yeah, I was just talking about how important it was to niche down. And then, how important it is to kind of talk about these 3 awareness phases that prospects go through in order to identify the fact that you are the right person to help them. So maybe you could jump into that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So there's kind of a maxim going around in the coaching space right now, and that is solve one problem for one person. And so many coaches make that mistake. They either don't realize the wisdom of this, or they think that they're solving one problem for one avatar, one person, but they're trying to solve multiple problems for one person or multiple problems for multiple avatars. So kind of understanding the difference between like a niche and really having an avatar defined is really important. And you have to go beyond the demographics to really almost look at it as one person. Imagine you're sitting across the table from someone who is your perfect prospect. Like, what type of characteristics and demographics, et cetera, do they have to have for you to say, yes, this is exactly who I want. This is exactly who I can help. And here's my specific solution for helping you get that, achieve that outcome that you're after. So very few coaches have actually really defined their business to this point. And when you do that, it can be very powerful. So once you have done that, once you know exactly who your avatar is and exactly what problem you're solving for them, then you kind of have to understand how people ascend through a funnel. And this is one of my kind of beefs with the industry. If you ever look at the content that I post about, is that a lot of coaches are following these high ticket funnel gurus and basically trying to take someone from clicking on an ad to watching a 45-minute webinar to getting on a sales call and buying into a high ticket program, all in a very short period of time, 24, 72 hours, et cetera. And it can be done. There are a lot of people making good money doing that, but there's also a lot of coaches who completely fail with this model. And there's also a lot of people who are making money with this model, but leaving, they could be making 10 times more if they understood kind of how relationships are built in marketing, how to ascend someone through a funnel, et cetera, et cetera. So the 3 phases that, your average consumer is going to move through, you have and these aren't hard and fast rules, but there's like 90% of the market that's in the awareness phase. And what that basically means is they're either they're not even aware that they have a problem, or they're aware of it, but they don't know that there are solutions out there. And the way that you communicate with someone who's in this phase of life is different from how you communicate with someone who knows that they have a problem and is looking for solutions. So generally speaking, in the awareness phase, where the majority of your market is, you want to communicate to them that they can, in fact, achieve their outcome. And this is the mistake that so many coaches make. They go out there with this how-to content, how to do this, how to do that, and they're sharing information, they're sharing the steps from their process, but because their prospects don't have that emotional buy-in, they don't have that mental buy-in, and even believe that they can lose weight, that they can build a business, that they can become a high-ticket closer, et cetera, the information, the how-to, the tips, the tactics, the process don't even matter to them because they haven't bought into the fact that they could one day achieve that outcome. So this is a big mistake that a lot of coaches are making, is sharing information, the tips, and the process too early. So in the beginning of the funnel, whether that's organic or paid ads, you want to be talking about kind of awareness content, making them aware of their problem, showing them that there's a solution, that they don't have to suffer from this for the rest of their lives, that they can get out of this situation, and then transitioning them into the next level, which is the information phase. So if anybody here has ever watched Scott Oldford, he probably has the best analogy for this that I've ever seen, with the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. And basically it's just like the awareness phase, the information phase, the action phase. So in the second phase, information, this is where you're sharing the how-to. This is where you're sharing your process, how you help people get results. And the purpose of this is, now they're aware that they have a problem, and you're making them aware of your solution, your process for helping them get results. So in this middle phase, this is where you talk about your 3 steps to achieving XYZ, your 5-step process, And then once someone understands they have a problem, understands that you have a solution, and understands your system or process for helping them get out of that situation, then you ask for action. You ask for them to get on a webinar, get on a VSL, get on a phone call, and essentially buy into your program. And what happens when you do this properly is, if you're speaking to, if you've properly identified your avatar, you've properly identified the problem that you're solving for them, well, you're taking them through a natural process that leads in to making the sale. Now they know they have a problem. They know what your solution is. They know how your process works, and they understand that you're about to present them with a sales opportunity. And they get on the phone with you, understanding how your stuff works. They should have a general ballpark idea of what it's going to cost. And at that point, the sales conversation just becomes a matter of answering their questions, clearing up any ambiguities, whatever. And this is where you start to see those high enrollment rates, 60, 70, 80%. When I was running my copywriting business, I was enrolling like 90% of the people that I got on the phone with. So that's like, if you look at that whole process, a lot of coaches don't understand this. They either haven't defined their avatar, haven't defined the problem they're solving, or maybe they've done an okay job of those, but they're not taking their prospects through a sequential step-by-step process to transition them from the awareness phase to the information phase to the action phase. So I know Janet has experienced this on both sides of the spectrum, dealing with trying to close the leads of coaches and experts who are not doing this effectively, in which case it can be very difficult to sell these people. And then also dealing with leads from someone like Ryan Levesque or some of these high-level experts who understand this stuff, and just how much easier it is to enroll those people into your program. So do you want to kind of touch on both of those sides, Janet, like when you've seen both of these happen?
Yeah, so I think the first point, there's 2 key points I want to make. The first, when you talked about a lot of these high ticket coaching programs that are out there right now, what's interesting about those is that the people who are promoting those programs don't even use the methodology that they are teaching people. So while they're saying that, oh yeah, our methodology is we do an ad, the prospect goes to the webinar, and then they go to the sales call. Okay, there is some of that going on, but the close ratio on that is literally 10%. So they are burning through salespeople at like unbelievable rates. As those, I know quite a few people who have worked with some of these companies, and they can't sustain the sales team. So that's number one. And most of those people who are doing, $1 million a year, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in revenue, they've got tons of marketing going on. They have tons of nurturing campaigns going on. So they're not really literally doing what they say that they're teaching other people to do. So that's a little bit of a bone of contention that I think you and I agree on, Chris. And I think the second thing about marketing that I've been saying for a very long time is that two things have to happen before somebody is going to invest in high ticket offer. The first is they have to believe that the program works. They have to know who the coach is, respect that coach, and believe that that person's program works. That is done through marketing. Because the second piece of it is they have to know that it's going to work for them or believe that it's going to work for them. And that's the conversation that needs to take place on the sales call. So when, you talk about people coming onto a call, do they even know why they're on this call? Because literally, if they're on the call to find out about the program, to find out if it works, to hear more about it, to learn more about the process, to get coached, that's not an enrollment session, right? They don't even know they're there to get enrolled or to talk about whether this program will actually be a good fit for them. So that piece needs to be addressed in the marketing, which is something that you're an expert at doing, Chris. And then the salesperson gets to do what I call stand in the fire, right? Where with somebody and really help them get over their own fears as to whether they personally are going to be able to succeed in this program that they already know about, and they know the coach has a good track record of success. So again, I think a lot of coaches make the mistake of just because they get calls booked on their calendar, they think they're sales calls, when in fact, they're really just requests for more information, which is a function of marketing. And then therefore people think, oh, I have a sales problem, but they really have a marketing problem.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. And I've seen this in my business. I've seen it in other people's businesses. We both know people who've experienced this, and the people who are closing 60, 70, 80% of the leads they get on the phone with have their marketing dialed in. They have their message, they know their avatar, they know what problem they're solving. Their marketing communicates that effectively, and they have a proper nurturing sequence in place that is able to take a cold prospect, educate them on all the different steps, move them through that sequentially up until they get on the phone. And that's when you start to see those really high closing rates. And when people don't do this properly, that's when you start to see marketing funnels that don't perform well, low closing rates on all these sales calls. So yeah, it really is important. I thought, I see we've gone half an hour here. I thought I'd take a few minutes to kind of share how anybody watching this can really get these two pieces dialed in, can get their avatar dialed in, figure out the problem they're solving for that person, and then form their marketing communications around that. This is one of my strengths, one of my superpowers. Part of the reason that Ryan Levesque asked me to join his team was because of my understanding of his deep dive survey methodology and the market research side of things. So it's actually really not that tricky and not that complicated, but it takes work, and it's relatively boring work. Most people don't like to do this, but if you do it, it'll put you ahead of 99% of your competitors. So the most valuable thing that you can do is really first look at yourself and look at your past experience, your skill set, your resources, your talents, and figure out, okay, who is my perfect prospect? Like looking at, okay, I'm able to solve this problem. What prospect has that? What type of person has that specific problem that I can solve for them? And then once you have that nailed down as best you can, which Janet can't do that for you, I can't do that for you. This takes introspection, and you really have to look at, who you can help solve a problem. But once you have a ballpark idea of that, and it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be a ballpark idea, the best way to really nail this down is to get on the phone with these people and not try to sell them. Just get on the phone and ask them about their pain points. What are they struggling with? What do they want to achieve? Why can't they do it on their own? The information to achieve most anything is widely available on the internet now. So we know that lack of information is not why people cannot achieve the goals that they have. Typically, it's mindset stuff. In most cases, it's mindset stuff. But, or they don't have a system to follow, or they tried someone else's system, it didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. So you want to get on the phone with these people and really dig deep into their pain points, asking them questions. I've done this before, and the crazy thing about it is you can get on the phone with a total stranger, and as long as you show them that you actually care and that you're actually there to listen, they will open up their hearts. Like, I have heard strangers tell me some really crazy stuff because I just shut up and listened and was willing to kind of ask them some personal questions that, like, their spouse doesn't even ask them this stuff. Their kids, their pastor, like their family, nobody's talking about this kind of stuff with them. So when you can shut up and just listen and let them talk about like what is going on in their heart and their soul, they will tell you everything that you need to know to effectively market your practice. They're going to tell you about their mindset issues, about their money issues, about how long they've been trying to get this to work, the programs that they've tried. And really effective question to ask is they say, like, you get on the phone about whatever, a coaching program. Say there's a guy who's gained weight in his mid-30s, kind of like I'm going through right now. And, say we get on the phone. Well, on the surface level, it's going to be you're talking about losing weight. But then you ask, okay, well, why is it important to you to lose weight? And you might say, well, my wife's been teasing me, and I used to have higher energy, but now when I go surfing, I don't have as much stamina as I used to. Okay, well, why is it important to you that that you be able to surf more? Well, surfing is my number one life's passion, and it's the only physical activity I really enjoy. Well, why is it important to you to participate in this? Well, this is where like I go to my Zen space. This is how I stay mental equilibrium. Da da da. So once you get to the point where like asking that question would be redundant, where there's really no further to go, that's when you really understand what it is that your prospects want from your program. And very, very, very few people have taken, like almost literally nobody, very, 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 very few people have taken the time to do this because A, it takes time. These calls can take 30, 45 minutes, an hour. B, you're asking total strangers very personal questions, which most people aren't comfortable doing. And B, and then C, and this is where most people get tripped up, is that you have to do it enough times to find a pattern in the data. So this is one of the things I've learned from Ryan Levesque, and is that like, if you get on the phone with 5 people and 3 of them tell you that they want to lose weight so that they can surf better, so that they have this mental zen, and one of them tells you because they're sick of their wife teasing them and they have these insecurities from their childhood, and then one of them tells you that they want to get buff because they want to impress girls, well, it would be statistically insignificant to jump to the conclusion, okay, 3 out of these 5 people told me that they want to be able to do sports, and sports is where they like keep their mental balance. Well, that doesn't extrapolate to 50 people, to 100 people, to 100,000 people in your audience. So you need to talk to 20, 40 people until you start to find repetitive patterns in the data. And once you like hold enough of these calls where you can almost predict what the other person is going to say because you're starting to hear the answers over so many times, that's when you know that you've struck gold. That's when you know, okay, this is my market. This is what they want. This is the terminology that they use to describe their problems, da, 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 da. That's when you know you're lasered in. And this is the job of a copywriter. This is one of the things that I do for certain clients, and that any high-level copywriter is doing in a 6-figure or 7-figure campaign, is they spend the bulk of their time on this market research phase. Because once you really get the market research dialed in, the copy writes itself, the messaging writes itself. So as if you're an expert business, a solopreneur, this is basically going to be your responsibility. The majority of people are not going to be able to afford a copywriter who's going to take 25 or 40 hours out of their time to do this for somebody. So you as the business owner, it's your responsibility to get on the phone with your prospects and ask these questions until you really have that deep level understanding of your market. Because once you do that, then being able to craft messaging that speaks to your prospects' pain points, takes them from the awareness to information to action, etc. It really just becomes dead simple. Like, you literally just know what to write because you've walked a mile in their shoes. You know what the overwhelming majority of your market is thinking and feeling. So it takes time, it takes work that most people aren't willing to do. But if you go this far, if you actually do this, it'll put you ahead of 99% of your competitors. And if you do this, if you record your sales calls, record these calls and work with someone like Janet, it's going to make her life dramatically easier because she's going to know exactly what to say on your call. She's going to know what pain points exist in your market, et cetera, et cetera. If you have this kind of information, it's going to equip your copywriter to do a much better job because they're going to know what pain points they need to speak to in your copy, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very foundational level business activity. And the beautiful thing is, like, once you only have to do it once, and then you're gonna have all the information you need to market your business for the next, year. So I know majority of people watching this will never go do that. They'll never take the time to do it. It's boring, it sucks. But it'll give you the insights that you need to more effectively market and sell your program. Hands down, no questions about it.
Yeah. Well, I think I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's exactly how I came to create the High Ticket Sales Alliance, right? Because originally I was helping coaches with their high ticket sales and helping them to figure out how best to sell their programs. And we were doing a lot of this kind of same thing. But what I found out is that there were so many people who actually were desperate to find a salesperson, and there just weren't enough high ticket salespeople to go around. I didn't even know that before I started. I learned that from getting on all of these calls with all of these coaches that I was doing. So yeah, I mean, that's a great tip for people who are still feeling like they're too broad and they don't know their exact pain points of the avatar that they really want to work with. So here's the thing. This was really meant to just be a training. It's educational. We really want to deliver value to you guys out there to help you to make your funnel stronger, to be able to scale your business. And, granted, you're not going to scale your business if you don't have somebody to do your selling for you, because at some point you're just going to hit the wall, right? Where you can't grow because too much of your time is spent over here on sales and there's just not enough time left to deliver. And if you're going to outsource anything, it should not be the coaching that the people are hiring you because of you and your skill set. It should be the sales piece of it. So if feel free to reach out to me. We'll post the link for my calendar. So I'm an expert in sales, but more than anything, I'm an expert in relationship building. I get fulfilled by meeting with people. I love the whole concept of matching people up. A lot of times when I speak to somebody, I'm going to be bringing Chris in because they're going to need a bigger solution than just a salesperson. But it's great to start with a conversation. And I'm happy to introduce you to Chris, if that's the right way for you to go. He's fixed a lot of people's funnels. So in fact, isn't that the name of your group, Chris? The funnel fixer?
Funnel fixer, yeah.
Funnel fixer, Facebook group. So yeah, go join him over there. You get some great insight. He's, as you can see, he's very generous with his teaching. And if you want to become a great copywriter yourself, just look at his stuff. But if you don't want to become a copywriter yourself, just go hire him, which is what I did. So anyway, Chris and I are jointly working together to make sure that coaches that are looking for salespeople have a full solution, not just a separate marketing funnel and then try to do sales on the back end. It's all got to come together. So any final words, Chris?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, I would say, if anybody listening to this is in that position where they're struggling with these sales calls, I definitely encourage you guys to reach out to Janet. She has a ton of experience doing this for some very high level marketers and will be able to quickly diagnose, whether you have a marketing problem, a sales problem, and kind of which area is going to help you get the most leverage the fastest. So, yeah, I've enjoyed working with you. We're doing some interesting stuff, and yeah, thanks for having me today.
We're out there on the cutting edge, always forging the new path. So thanks for joining me. And for everybody who's out there, I will be back next Thursday, same time, same place. And we'll be talking more about how to get better and better at closing high ticket sales and obviously getting to that point where you're ready to bring on a salesperson. So thanks for being here today. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.